Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Subindu, the Program Director at RISE. RISE is a collaborative initiative supporting the industry to advance equality in global garment supply chains. I welcome you to our session, Weaving the Future Together, Building Workers' Financial Resilience to Climate Shocks. Climate change is already impacting workers. It is real and it is happening now. The intensity and the number of days with high heat and flooding are increasing, which for workers who are already on low wages, it means loss of assets and their earnings. And that means they either have to draw on their limited savings or it means increase in debt. At the same time, at the factory level, it means increase in absenteeism and worker turnover. And also it means declining productivity. And all of this actually hurts the bottom line for the factories. A few months back, we conducted research listening to workers from Cambodia and Bangladesh. What you see in the quote on the slide is just part of the story of day-to-day lives of factory workers. During the rainy season, one night, Fatima had to stay up all night as the house was flooded, and she had to put all her belongings on top of their bed. And even though she did not have enough sleep, she had to go to work next day as she could not afford to miss her day's work. She walked from her house to the factory, wading through flooded streets, and her clothes and feet got dirty on the journey. When she arrived at the factory, she couldn't find soap to clean her feet, and neither did she have enough time due to production pressure. Her leg was infected, and she ended up in surgery. She had to spend almost a month's wage at a private hospital because the public hospital did not have enough capacity. And unfortunately, the factory did not grant her paid sick leave afterwards. Likely, she might have also been subjected to harassment as she couldn't be as productive as when she was 100% healthy. This story illustrates the domino effect of climate change that affects the lives of workers. Our previous experience shows that when the garment and the financial sector come together, there is potential to increase financial inclusion as well as strengthen financial resilience for workers. I'm pleased to welcome our speakers today who are from these sectors, and they will share their different perspectives on climate change as well as ways to improve the resilience of workers in the face of climate shocks. I would like to introduce our speakers. First, we have Sofiak Samarit. She is the recruitment manager at Dewhurst, Cambodia, which is a garment manufacturer based in Cambodia with thousands of workers. Next, we have Neliswa Hare. She is the head of projects and partnerships at Humanity Insured, which is a not-for-profit set up for backing of insurance industry, empowering communities to build climate resilience. And then we have Natasha Jamal, Vice President, Global Programs, MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth, the social impact hub for MasterCard, bringing together the company's business assets in service of people and the planet. First, I would like to come to you, Sofiak. As someone who's working in a factory in Cambodia, what is it that you're seeing the impact of climate change at the factory level? And at the same time, what is it that the workers are facing? What are some of the challenges and the opportunities you see that can be there to build the resilience of workers in the face of climate shocks?
Thank you. My name is Sophia. I have been working as recruitment manager at US Cambodia around over 10 years. And I would like to share some insight about impact extreme weather on workplace to worker in Cambodia. Yeah. Cambodia experienced very hot day, already. And most every evening right now, rain cause flooding. The situation of rain make it difficult for workers travel to the factory. And one more thing, the factory also disrupt factory shipment and direct affect production schedule. The challenge have insignificant impact on worker both in their work life and financially. When the worker cannot come to work, they lose income, which adversely affect their living. To help the worker be financially resilient and better manage to the shock caused by climate change, we provide financial empower worker with the knowledge to cope with unexpected problems through the RISE program.
Thank you so much, Sofiak. Coming to you, Niliswa. Humanity Insure had already been doing some work related to climate change. Can you share some of the details of what this work looks like and how you're supporting businesses, communities, and workers, and to build their resilience in the light of climate shocks that they face?
Thank you so much for having me here. And yeah, essentially at Humanity Insured, when we say we are supporting workers in climate vulnerable areas, in practice, that means actually putting prearranged protection in place so that when a drought, a flood, or a heat wave hits, money flows quickly and predictably to people that are affected. So for the communities that we work with, so for example, for farmers that we work with in Kenya, in Malawi, we are able to subsidize crop and drought insurance so that they can recover from failed crops without selling their tools or even pulling children out of schools in some examples. For displaced families in refugee settlements, our work with the UNHCR and the World Food Programme means payouts arrive days of a trigger, reducing dependency on uncertain aid shipments. And when we are talking about workers facing extreme heats, like the examples that we have heard today, we are piloting heat index insurance products in India. And this covers informal workers and sometimes construction workers and street vendors, so that when temperatures are rising and cross dangerous thresholds, when extreme heat forces people to stop working, payouts are provided for immediate income bridge for the people that are protected by this insurance. And what happens is that this gives the people the freedom to prioritize their health, their safety, without losing the wages that they need to feed their families. We've also worked in fragile economies with the example of working with the World Food Programme in areas like Syria, and our partnerships with the WPF enabled $7.9 million to be paid out for drought insurance this year, and nearly 120,000 people in farming communities were able to benefit from this insurance payout. So our CEO usually talks about the fact that at times you find in very fragile spaces, when disaster strikes, aid is a bit too slow and sometimes uncertain. So insurance becomes fast, predictable, and is able to give people the restoration for their dignity that they need. So we always, as Humanity Insured, in terms of how we always work through our local partners. So some partners that we've worked with, as I mentioned, UNHCR, which are your big INGOs, but we also work with on-the-ground organizations such as One Acre Fund, Mama Bank in Papua New Guinea, so that insurance is combined with training and other resilience measures. And we can listen to what the community needs and be able to structure the programs so that they can be fit for purpose for the people on the ground. So for us, resilience is not just about payouts, it is about confidence and choice. Workers know when they can plan, invest, and recover, and communities can almost know that they're not alone owning an insurance tool that can be there for them in times when a disaster strikes.
Thank you so much. Coming to you, Natasha. At MasterCard, through joint work with RISE, we have catalyzed the scale-up of digital wages in global supply chains. How does the Center for Inclusive Growth think on building on this progress and to achieve scalable impact? What could some of the next steps look like?
Sure. Thank you, Subindu. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you today during this Financial Inclusion Week session. And thank you too to my fellow panelists for their insightful thoughts as well. Let me maybe start by sharing a little bit about the Center's model, the Center for Inclusive Growth's model, and then I'll hone in specifically on how programs like RISE help to deliver inclusive growth at scale. So at the Center for Inclusive Growth, we believe that the private sector plays a really important role in catalyzing change, particularly when we focus on driving this change at an ecosystem level. But in order to affect this change at the systemic level, we cannot work alone. In fact, no one can. We need everyone around the table. That includes the private sector, the public sector, and includes civil society, because each of us bring our own unique strengths and capabilities to the table. As private sector, and as MasterCard in particular, we know that our strength lies in the assets that go beyond just our philanthropic funding. So we bring technology and expertise, we bring solutions, we bring a broad connected network of collaborators and contributors that we can activate. Public sector, on the other hand, brings the ability to reach even the most remote populations so that interventions can be rolled out at scale. And civil society brings the know-how and the local connections to really effectively implement programs on the ground. That's why building these kinds of partnerships with the right set of like-minded partners is really key for any program to drive scale. By establishing partnerships that align assets and competencies and incentives across business and governments and nonprofits, we can ensure that our investments get stretched further and that our change can lead to broader catalytic effect. The Centre for Inclusive Growth's partnership with RISE is a great example, to your point, of how we achieve scale. So as a reminder, RISE brings together large corporations, including MasterCard, but also local factories and suppliers, financial service providers, and nonprofits to address the digitalization needs of the garment sector. To date, our work in Egypt and Cambodia has helped bring over 45,000 workers into the formal financial fold, and close to 70% of those are women. Now, although we started by thinking of how we could digitize wages to drive financial inclusion, we've now been able to evolve from that to look more holistically at bolstering the financial resilience of these garment workers. And this is particularly important in the context of climate change and the economic shocks that could result from that, as you've heard from my fellow panelists. So now we have new partnerships in place to strengthen the financial health of workers, female workers especially, and more holistically. For example, we're providing female garment factory workers with the knowledge and the skills to help them make better financial decisions and to feel more confident in their financial lives, which in turn will have a knock-on effect on their ability to better handle shocks and the unexpected impacts of climate change. On the supply side, we're building the capacity of local financial service providers and suppliers so that they can better understand the opportunities that they have to support the financial health of people within their communities. And finally, we're putting efforts behind research to understand what's working, what's not, and what should we be doing more of, so that we can push our learnings and best practice and insights to others who are doing similar work. Navigating these multiple partners is complicated and it's often quite messy, but I think that we're continuing to see certainly how effective these partnerships can be in delivering impact at scale. So in the end, and I think most of us would agree on this call, it is certainly worth it.
Thank you so much, Natasha. To wrap up, maybe you guys could share in less than a minute, one piece of advice you would have for someone who's working on increasing climate financial resilience for low-income workers. What would that advice be? Neliswa?
Thank you. I mean, it's a lot of pressure asking for one piece of advice, but I think the most important thing is around listening to what the community or the people have to say and just understanding what the challenges are. I think within my sector, for example, in insurance, it's not about taking insurance products that are working in certain places and just trying to put them within those contexts, but just understand what the needs of that communities are and try to adapt and innovate our programs or tools rather, so that they are able to work for those communities. So I think it'll be something that we've said, and I think something that Natasha spoke about when she was speaking about partnerships is about listening to those communities, hearing what it is that the communities need support with, and then finding a way to work together with those organizations to be able to make a difference. And just to be open to the fact that the way in which people experience or work with specific tools rather is not necessarily the same as what happens in the North. So the way that insurance is being sold in the North is not the same as in developing nations, and the way in which people purchase it, etc., is not the same. So I would say, yeah, just have a moment, listen, understand, and then be able to adapt from that to be able to support those communities and specifically work with organizations that understand and know how those organizations operate.
Thank you. Tasha?
Sure. Look, at the risk of repeating myself, I think partnerships are critical, as I shared earlier, right? So my one piece of advice would be just don't go at it alone. Lean on others, find others who are like-minded, who have strengths that you can draw on, who have insights, to Nalisa's point, that can help influence how you're thinking about the problem. And really, let's all break out of our silos. At the end of the day, things like climate and climate shocks are not a single issue topic, right? There's so many knock-on effects that climate change is going to have on the lives of workers and others within the community. So we also cannot take a narrow-minded view of some of these challenges. Having partners, talking to partners, understanding the holistic problem and how it impacts the communities and the children going to school and healthcare and how you get to work, all of those things will help us create more relevant, tailored, and stronger solutions that really get to the heart of solving the problem and helping people through it.
Thank you. So today we've heard about the challenges that the workers face, due to climate change, how it is impacting their lives and their livelihoods. We've heard Fatima's story, but also we've also seen the impact it has at the factory level. But at the same time, we've heard, there are these possibilities and opportunities from the financial sector and the potential to build some products and services that can support these workers. And, you've emphasized the importance of partnership as well as the contextualization for the local needs, depending on the country or the community that you're working with. I would now like to thank all our speakers today and your thoughts and insights as we all go further in our journey on this topic. Thank you so much.